What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the CRW podcast here for episode 242, our Texas Tech preview and predictions edition. Hard to believe, final game of the 2025 season already upon us here as we get through year one of the Rich Rod 2.0 era, and West Virginia closes it out against a top 10 opponent on senior day. We'll get into that game here towards the end of the show. We do want to talk a little bit of basketball here to begin the show, as they are 7 games into their young season now as well. We're at that fun point of the year where both sports are coinciding for a brief moment. So plenty to talk about here going on in Mountaineer sports world. And joining me to do all that, of course, my great co-host, Steven.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on,
Hope
man?
everybody's
Happy Thanksgiving week to you, man.
absolutely. That's what I was getting ready to say. I hope everybody's having a good week this Thanksgiving week.
Sure.
A lot to. We get a little bit of a break, sports-wise throughout the week, but this weekend going to be packed yet again with Mountaineer sports.
Yeah,
Women's basketball,
sure.
men's basketball, football. Got a lot to look forward to, man.
Yeah, a lot coming up, man. A lot coming up as we, wind down the football season, but follow that right up with signing day the very next week. So recruiting's kicking off because you're into the signing day, learning who you're going to get there, and then of course you move into the portal after that with that coming in January. So, football, it doesn't take as long to get back to the season, it feels like, because there's more to follow throughout the off season. So while I do lament that this is the last game for the football side of things, and I hate how quick that always seems to go by, I do enjoy now that at least that is, to me, one of the positives of the new era of college football is there's more to follow to keep you engaged throughout the off season and get you amped up and ready so that the off season for football doesn't feel so long. Because I love Mountaineer basketball too, but I'm a football first guy, as you guys know. So that's what I'll be looking forward to again after this game, but while also enjoying some Mountaineer basketball, of course, which we'll get into talking about momentarily. But any other thoughts before we dive in and talk some WVU basketball, Steven?
No, I will say that in terms of like the weight that the football carries, or the weight from football season to football season, basketball season helps, but I think another thing that helps me is baseball season.
Yeah, baseball season's been fun too, and I've never been a baseball fan at all, but I've been into some Mountaineer baseball.
Yeah, Mountaineer baseball is fun to follow. I think college baseball is a lot more fun to follow than professional baseball. Professional baseball is not that. It's like the NBA. It's not really that fun to watch until
Yeah.
the playoffs roll around.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm more of a college sports guy in general anyway. So,
Yeah.
they got the aluminum bats, hitting some dingers out there. That was fun. We went up to the baseball game last year, and maybe we'll try and do that again this year as well. That was a good time. So,
Yeah,
but that being said,
absolutely.
Ross Hodge and the basketball team, off to a good start at 5-0, and then we go to the tournament in Charleston. Unfortunately, drop a couple of games there to now fall to 5-2. Not the result that we wanted there. 70-67 loss to Clemson. That one, I think, to me, hurt a little bit more. That one felt like it was more one that got away versus the next game where you lose 78-68 to Xavier, and they were just red hot, hitting a ton of threes. There wasn't much you could do on that one. I don't think you played as bad as you did in the second half against Clemson, where, you kind of took your foot off the gas and then some mistakes down the stretch, and you lose the game, and Clemson goes on to win that tournament in Charleston. So 5-2 WVU basketball season. What have you seen thus far that you've liked throughout the season? And then looking at that tournament in Charleston, are you worried after those back-to-back losses against what's been your most real competition yet, I guess you could say?
Not worried yet. No. To answer that question. But what I seen down in Charleston was, I don't know, hopefully some things that'll get fixed going forward. I thought in the Clemson game, they played well, especially early. Then Clemson kind of climbed back, and then West Virginia kind of took over for the most part, going into halftime, and then coming out in the first part of that second half. It wasn't until that late surge by Clemson that let them really kind of pull away and win that game. More notably by Carter Welling hitting a couple threes at the top of the perimeter, which was uncharacteristic. I think Carter Welling's been one of their best players, but I think at the same time he hasn't been one of their best 3-point shooters. So for him to get hot in that game was uncharacteristic. So I see why West Virginia really wasn't looking for him to shoot that. That wasn't really in the scouting report. But at the same time, West Virginia's got to be able to adjust, and it just did not do that late in that game, and it cost them. The Xavier game, I think, was was similar, but also a little bit different. Similar in the way that West Virginia kind of controlled that game for most of it, and then Xavier kind of came on, got hot late offensively, and just was hitting shots. But rather than it being one or two guys like it was for Clemson getting hot, it was a lot of guys for pretty much everyone on the court for Xavier.
Yeah.
Got hot. I mean, Milicevic was the one that I think got the
Started it.
most points out of that and started most of it. He was the one talking the most shit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he was.
And kind of maybe bluntly to put it, rightfully so. But I don't know. That was a historic shooting performance by Xavier. I think it ended up being 16 threes that they hit,
16, yeah. I think it was like
something
16
like
of
that.
25. It was more than 50% they were hitting on the threes, too. It was something
Yeah.
crazy like that.
So on one side of that coin, that's not going to happen every game. Not every team's going to
No.
hit that high of a clip. But at the same time, West Virginia has to learn. I think coming out of that tournament, hopefully it's a positive. They have to learn how to make better adjustments on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's something that we've done to a good point up to this point of the season. But I think at the same time, we haven't really played that high of a level of competition like we've seen in Clemson or Xavier.
Yes.
And we're definitely going to see that consistently in the Big 12 Conference this year. So not in panic mode yet, but I do think that if I'm a West Virginia fan, which I am, that's what I'm really, really watching is how well that is able to be adjusted going forward.
Yeah.
On
You're going
the
to have
defensive
to.
side of the ball. Yeah, I think that's what really cost us. I think offensively we've went through our woes. People have been harsh on several players on the offensive side of the ball on this team, but I don't know, man. I think we'll figure it out going forward on that side. I think it's the defensive side of the ball that I really want to see adjustments made.
Yeah. I agree. You're going to have to, and I think, maybe some late game, like situational awareness stuff, that's what really hurt us against Clemson a little bit, with I think on the coaching side, not making some adjustments when some things were happening. You mentioned like the back-to-back threes there. Maybe we could have changed into a different defense with the way they were attacking us. They kept getting mismatches, either somebody sealing off a mismatch down low in the post or kick out 2 or 3 like that. I think that was one. But then, of course, the big one was down 3 and we shoot a layup, with under 2 seconds to go, which, Coach Hodge said in hindsight wished he would have called a timeout. It was just kind of like watching a train wreck, I think was how he described it. But, you just wish that either he or Brennan Lorian, who's a senior, had the situational awareness to catch that and call a timeout if they weren't going to be able to get a 3 off, knowing that we were down, 3 points and needed one at that point in the game. But that's at least, if that's going to happen,
I forgot to mention that.
you want it to happen
Great
now
point.
and not like later in the season, like in the conference tournament, or if you make the NCAA tournament, have it happen there. So if something like that's going to happen, I'd rather it happen here early, learn from it, and then improve. And I think the only thing now is you've created like a slim margin of error for yourself throughout the rest of non-con play. You're going to have to damn near win out, to really help your NCAA tournament chances when it comes to the end of the season with your rest of your non-con slate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point with that. I forgot to even mention about that shot at the last part of the game by Bilo.
Yeah,
That's
that's
just, I
frustrating.
mean, I don't understand. And then he looked over and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "What do you mean, oh my gosh? Like, how is it not?"
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
guess I don't know. Heat of the moment, maybe you just forget that you were down 3. I don't know. I don't know how you would, but I mean, adrenaline and stuff. Maybe who knows?
Yeah, that was a tough one, man. That was a tough one. Like you said, though, hopefully that happened in the earlier part of the season will only be positive for us later in the year. But it's losing games like this in the earlier part of the year that might really come back to haunt you in the later part of the year also.
Yeah,
So you really got to come
but
to play.
got to bounce back. And they get a chance, like you said, on Sunday they'll take on Mercyhurst 3 o'clock on ESPN Plus. 6 non-conference games left now. 2 of those against Wake Forest and Ohio State. So some tough games still yet in there. And I do like the fact that you do have both of those left, though, so you can see how you've improved since you've played, Clemson and Xavier once you get, a little bit deeper in the non-conference slate here, playing Wake Forest on December 6th and Ohio State on December 13th. And then, of course, conference play begins in January, so we'll see where this team's at moving forward, got some things they know they need to work on after that tournament. And hopefully they bounce back. But any other thoughts on basketball before we switch gears and talk about the game at hand, senior day and final game of the football season?
No, man. I think West Virginia. I think basketball team will get it figured out. They got to go through their woes, man. Not everything's going to be like the season we had last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
We'll get it figured out.
True. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, man. Still a lot of season left. A lot of season left. Haven't lost faith in this team yet. They can still make some noise. We'll see what happens. Yep. Hopefully they bounce back for Coach Hodge's debut season there, which, speaking of debut seasons, we're wrapping up another one here in the Rich Rod 2.0 era as we started off here, and we're going to end it, like I said, with a bang as you're welcoming in a top 10 team. So, I think that's something I heard Zach Alley talk about in his press conference is the opportunity to get a win over a top 10 opponent doesn't come around very often. So, no bowl game for West Virginia, so I think even you've said it in the past, it's kind of your de facto bowl game, and the fact that they're ranked top 10 and, could be even near the top 5, should be a motivating factor enough for the final game of this season, which the seniors should have their own motivation there, 40 of them, so be sure to get to the stadium early because I'm sure they'll have to start those announcements a little bit earlier there for the seniors probably in that one. But as we said, Texas Tech coming in, one of the top teams in the country, 10-1 overall, 7-1 in the Big 12 Conference. West Virginia coming in at 4-7, 2-6 in conference. It's going to kick off at noon on Saturday the 29th on ESPN. Joey McGuire, the head coach of Texas Tech, back for his 4th season. Both teams coming into this game off of a bye week. Any opening thoughts before we get into kind of a little bit of details on the matchups on each side here?
Yeah, I just think I think everybody knows on paper this looks like David versus Goliath, obviously, but I think there's a pretty good crowd that's going to be expected for a team with West Virginia's record.
Yeah.
A losing record the way that it is, I think there's supposed to be a pretty decent crowd at hand. So I don't know. I think there should be a good atmosphere that'll help out. I think West Virginia's definitely not in a position to where they're going to shy away and bow down to Texas Tech. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of positives to look at when you look at this game. Originally, I didn't think West Virginia had a shot in the world, and still a lot of people probably don't think that West Virginia does. But I'm of the belief that West Virginia still has a lot to play for. Like you just said, and like we've talked before, I think this is your de facto bowl game. I think that this game is, in some ways, maybe the measuring stick on what your excitement level is going to be going into the off season.
Yeah.
And so this thing matters for a lot of reasons other than just going to a bowl game and for the what the overall record is on the season. I think for what the culture is going to be, I mean, not really the culture. I don't think that's the best way to put it, because I think the culture is going to be what it's going to be moving forward regardless. But I think for the vibe of this off season and for the excitement level that you're that you're going to have, not just for the fan base, but internally for your locker room, this game matters a lot. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I'd agree with that for sure. And I think, just to kind of expand upon that, and then we'll get into the matchups on each side here, which it's going to sound, like Steven said, David versus Goliath, because Texas Tech, on paper, they've been dominant in some of their numbers. When I was looking at them, was like, wow. I mean, and you guys know the way I go through and break it down. I didn't do as much of a breakdown as far as individual players, because I think just the team numbers when we get into talking about the matchups is scary in and of itself. But just for the silver linings, for the positives to kind of go along with what you're talking about, the motivating factors, if you will, I think that, Rich Rod even mentioned one of the games he watched last year's team, he didn't watch a lot, was that Texas Tech game and how disgusted he was by it. And this Texas Tech team is better than that one was. But I think West Virginia is going to come out fighting despite all the injuries, everything that they're dealing with, which we've seen them do throughout recent weeks, which I think bodes well for the future of this program, like you talked about there, and for the culture. And I think that that's a little bit extra motivation, is he's like, hey, my team is going to come out and fight against Texas Tech, unlike that team I watched on tape last year. So add that into it, and like you said, hopefully a good crowd, as the Mountaineer Maniac for a Day thing is going on to try and get some extra people into the stadium, because the students aren't going to be there, which I think is a really cool idea, like $40 or $50 for that. You get to sit in the student section. They give you a goodie bag, a lot of cool stuff they're trying to to do to help the attendance with this game. And plus, how often
Yep.
do you get to see West Virginia play, a top 10 team in the nation that has a potential, Heisman contender on their roster even, and has been a dominant football team. And if West Virginia can hang with them closer than some other teams have, that's a huge statement for your program. So I think the crowd should be good, like you said there.
Yeah. And I think West Virginia's defense, a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball that have played really, really well this year aren't coming back next year. So I think they're going to
Yeah,
have a lot to play for. So that's a factor to definitely take into account as well, I think. But
definitely.
but you're right. I think I'm interested to see how that whole maniac for a day thing turns out. I'm kind of commend Ren Baker and the administrative staff. They're really kind of like doing something different. Not only with that, but how they've really changed things up with all of the ticketing. The one thing that I will say that is kind of disappointing is they're moving almost entirely to a digital ticket model, whereas I'm a fan of the physical tickets. I wish that they would keep those around as long as possible. Other than that, though, I love that they're changing things up in terms of how they do all that stuff. Obviously, everybody's talked about the changes in the seating at the Coliseum, but
Yeah.
how they switched up the student seating and now this, I think definitely different. I think it's only a positive whenever you think about revenue that can be brought in.
Yep.
Uh,
More revenue, which is great, and
yep,
another smart move by Ren Baker. Surprise, surprise, right? With all the good things he continues to
yep.
do
Smart
for
guy.
this university. He is, man. Very smart guy. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about this matchup on each side here. Let's start with West Virginia on offense and Texas Tech on defense, because I think you definitely got to lead it talking with the Texas Tech defense. It's been phenomenal, one of the best in the nation. Some would argue the very best in the nation, and that's going to be a tough matchup for West Virginia, who yet again still continues to be hit by the injury bug. No Dior Hubbard in this game. So, make it what, 3 or 4 running backs West Virginia's lost for the season to go along with the 3 quarterbacks, multiple receivers as well. So, crazy season injury wise, especially at the skill positions, which are very important. So West Virginia going into this game a little bit shorthanded again, but that's okay. They've battled through that before and been in close games and won some of these in these late Big 12 contests since they've really kind of turned the corner with the way they've been playing in recent weeks. So we'll see Sincere Bowers at the running back position. We'll see Curtis Jones more at the running back position as well. But they'll be facing a Texas Tech defense that, like we said, super talented. Shieldwood there, first season as their defensive coordinator, and in every single defensive category on PFF, they are rated 90 plus and number 1 in the Big 12, which is just insane. So I'm talking defensive grade 96.7, run defensive grade 95.8, tackling grade 91.7, pass rushing grade 91.9, coverage grade 93.5. And so it's rare that you see a team that is that high rated, in the analytics, but then also in the regular counting stats, the more traditional stats. But Texas Tech's there in both, because you look at the other stats, like I said, the more traditional side, they're number 1 in the conference in sacks with 33. They're number 1 in the conference in forced fumbles with 18. They're number 1 in the Big 12 in rushing defense. They're only giving up 72 rushing yards per game, which is one of the best in the nation. And they're number 1 in the Big 12 in scoring defense, also near the top of the nation, only allowing 12 points per game. So that's all the West Virginia offense has to go up against in this one, Stephen. No tall task or anything.
Yeah, nothing. No biggie, right?
Yeah, no biggie.
Yeah, I think normally West Virginia is going to try to run the ball down your throat. I don't think they have a chance to do that against Texas Tech, unfortunately. I think when West Virginia has the ball, I think our best shot is to find lanes over the middle. Um, Not that Texas Tech isn't good at guarding that as well. I think they're really good in pass coverage. But like you said, I mean, they're one of the best in the country at guarding the run.
Yeah,
I think it's like 72 yards a game that they've been averaging.
yeah, it's
Uh, uh,
pretty
you
stout.
know, giving up all year. So I think our best shot is to throw the ball. So I think Rodney's going to have a game. Cam's going to have a game. I mean, why not Jeffrey Weimer? But Jeffrey Weimer's been having flashes of greatness every now and then
His
in
last
these
go
past
round.
few games, and it's his last go round. So why not go out with a bang?
I'd
So
love to see it.
I look for West Virginia to pass the ball a lot more than normal. I just hope we're successful in doing it. I think
Yeah.
that a lot of how well we play is it hinges on that, obviously.
I think that's a good idea with the offensive line that we've had. They've been better in pass protection than in run blocking. Our injuries at running back, not a bad idea there. Try and sling it around a little bit. Just hope that you can move the ball a little bit on that Texas Tech defense. Like I said, all those numbers there, and I didn't really point out any specific individuals except for one that we do have to mention, of course, and that's Jacob Rodriguez. Mentioned
Yep.
Texas Tech has a Heisman candidate. Bet you never would thought it would be on defense. I think this year we're getting the answer to a question: what would Texas Tech look like if they were at a defense? Well, this year their defense is probably even better than their offense, and one of the big reasons is Jacob Rodriguez leading that thing, 97 tackles, so he'll probably go over 100 tackles in this game, and he has 7 forced fumbles on the season, which is crazy. 4 interceptions, and they even put him in on offense last week. Let him get a rushing TD, try and build that Heisman campaign a little bit. So definitely watch out for Jacob Rodriguez on the Texas Tech defense. He'll be flying around all over the place. He'll be hard for you to miss.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I don't know. West Virginia's going to have it's going to be a tall task. I think West Virginia's going to have a tough time whenever they got the ball all day. But I don't know. Hopefully, we're more successful than we are
Yeah.
otherwise.
Come out, surprise some people. Move the ball on Texas Tech like no one else has. That'd be crazy, man. Come out and rush for over 100 yards as a team, and that's impressive against this defense even. So,
Yep.
just the little things. Let's do it. Even if you do something like that, I think that's something you can build upon. We talked about momentum heading into the offseason. Maybe that's not necessarily even if you win or lose the game as much as it's seeing the little things you do against one of the best teams in the country. And hopefully we have some
Yeah.
things to hang our hat on there that West Virginia does well offensively going up against that Texas Tech defense. But let's talk about the other side, Steven. The Texas Tech offense against the West Virginia defense, which I thought the West Virginia defense has played pretty well in recent weeks. And Texas Tech's offense, led by offensive coordinator Mac Leftwich there in his first season. And the thing about this Texas Tech offense is it's pretty balanced. They are number 2 in the offense in the Big 12 as far as yards per game at 482, and within that they're the number 3 passing offense and the number 4 rushing offense. So right there, pretty balanced. Can hurt you either way, throwing or running. And some talented players there with the quarterback Baron Morton, who we've seen before, running back Cameron Dickey, and 3 wide receivers with 500 plus receiving yards. They really do spread it around. And basically, as good as their defense has been, as long as they take care of the ball, gain first downs and such, they're going to be able to win football games. But they have a pretty talented offense to go along with that very stout defense that West Virginia is going to have to contend with. The plus side, I think West Virginia, like I said, been playing well in recent weeks, so I think this is going to have to be one of those games where we have that defense kind of control things for West Virginia, get stops, let West Virginia's offense get opportunities because you're going to need as many opportunities as you can possibly have against that Texas Tech defense. But how are you feeling about this matchup, Stephen? West Virginia's defense against the Red Raider offense?
Yeah, you want to talk about even? They've got 27 touchdowns on the ground, 26 through the air. So
That's
I
incredible.
mean, everything about their offense is as evenly balanced as you can possibly get it. But I think West Virginia's best chance to beat them is oddly enough is if they do run the ball. I don't feel confident in West Virginia's ability to guard in pass coverage, especially throughout the entirety of the ball game. I think they've shown that they can do it for 1 or 2 drives, and then for whatever reason they seem to collapse and fall apart. I don't know if that's just because of adjustments made by the opponent or whatever the case may be. Throughout the process of a football game, but West Virginia just can't seem to figure it out in pass coverage. So if they try to go to Cameron Dickey, I actually feel confident in West Virginia's ability to stop him for the most part uh, throughout the game. Baron Morton kind of scares me because while he's not known for being the most mobile quarterback, I think that he has the capability to hurt you with his legs as well. So I don't know. I think a lot of West Virginia's success in this game really hinges on West Virginia's capability of stopping the run game, both in running back, and stopping the running back and stopping Baron Morton.
Yeah,
Um,
I could
I
see
don't know.
that.
But hopefully, they don't try to go to the air all day, which is something I have a feeling they're going to try to do. Because it's not hard to tell that that's something that you can do to easily beat West Virginia,
Yeah, I think
especially.
it almost goes without saying, but it's a
throughout.
big game for the pass rush, big game for West Virginia. If this is going to be a game where they can stay in it and try and hang close with this really talented Texas Tech team, we're going to have to see a game where the defense has a lot of TFLs, a lot of sacks, like we've seen them do in some games throughout the season. It's going to have to be one of those, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right.
Yeah, would love to see a guy like a Fred Perry have a great performance in his final game as well. But shout out to the seniors, in this game. It goes without saying, final game of the season, senior day. A lot of guys here, came in for this program only for 1 year, but these are guys that built the foundation for what we're going to have moving forward here in the Rich Rod 2.0 era. So shout out to those guys. Don't want to go without mentioning that. But any other thoughts before we hit key to victory and score prediction?
Yeah, I'll just touch on that for a second. I mean, in some ways, it's easy to brush off. Oh yeah, these guys were just here for 1 year, but these guys came in knowing they were only going to be here for 1 year, and knowing, like what you said, Cruz, is kind of building this initial foundation of this coaching regime, and then I don't know. I feel like in some ways it's to be respected more than some of the 4-year guys, or at least on the same level. So shout out to a lot of those guys, because they didn't have to come in for one and just play 1 year, and kind of an unknowing situation like this was, because they could have went somewhere potentially and played their final year where they had more success on whatever team that they could have respectively chosen. So I don't know. Shout out to those guys, man.
Yeah, man. Give them their flowers. They deserve it. Give them their flowers. They deserve it, for sure.
Y'all know me. I'm always going to try to find a way to give somebody their flowers.
Hey, as you should. As you should, man. I appreciate it, and well-deserved for those guys. Like you said, building that foundation means everything moving forward for future success. So, with that being said, talking about success, how are we going to find it in this game if West Virginia somehow finds a way to grab an ever-elusive top 10 victory, really shake up everything in the Big 12? Utah fans cheering for us, Arizona State fans cheering for us in this game to pull a crazy shocker and upset Texas Tech. But what's it going to take for West Virginia to get that done, Stephen? What's your key to victory in this one here, final game of 2025?
I think, as simple as it sounds, I think if they can find success in the passing game, like I said earlier, I think if they can find success in the passing game, and they can stay within 1 or 2 scores going into the final quarter of this game, I think that keeps your fans at least in the stands for that long, so that keeps your atmosphere that much more in it. And I think that that's going to be your best chance of winning this game. And I don't know, I think that it's also a positive that this game maybe starts at noon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hopefully
we've won some big games at noon. I think when we beat Baylor, that was a noon game when they were top 5 in the country. So.
Yep. So I don't know. Kind of wishful thinking here, obviously, but I think West Virginia has a chance. It's maybe a small chance, but I think if they can do that, and then a small asterisk on the defensive side of the ball, if they can have some big plays and have turnovers, those 3 things will get you the dub.
I like it.
Upset
I can
city.
dig it. I think for me, I've been talking about Texas Tech all year. I've been talking about them in the Around the Big 12 segment, how I feel like they were head and shoulders the best team in the conference and a potential national title contender. I think they are in that spot for a reason. They went out and built a really good roster throughout the offseason, and it's paying off for them. And you saw that with some of the numbers we touched on there, specifically there on the defensive side for them. So I think for West Virginia to have a chance to win this game, you're going to have to, play damn near perfect. So for me, the key to victory is eliminating errors. And I put in parentheses because we've heard Rich Rod talk about this. He said he doesn't know if it's ever happened, but he said he guarantees if you don't have any turnovers and you don't have any negative yardage plays, you're going to win every one of those games. He said he doesn't know if a team's ever done it, but that's something to strive for. And I think for West Virginia to win this one, they'd have to eliminate errors and come as close to as possible to no turnovers and no negative yardage plays on offense to have a chance to win this one. So eliminating errors is my key to victory, which brings us to that crucial moment in these episodes here, our preview and prediction episodes, which hard to believe this is the final time getting to do it on the football side here until next season of the show. But last game of the Rich Rod 2.0 era, year 1 here in 2025 against Texas Tech. like we said, looking to build some momentum going forward, Stephen. I think right now at the time we're recording this, Texas Tech something like 24-point favorites. So, no one's really expecting you to keep this close. Can you at least do that, much less pull the upset? What are you thinking here as far as a score prediction for this game, my friend?
Like you said, I think the the spread is rightfully the way that it is. I believe, the way the West Virginia's played at times, and then the way that especially that Texas Tech has played at times. I think that 20-some point spread is rightfully given. But with that being said, I think West Virginia's played with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder in the past few games. Even that past game out there at Arizona State, I think they played with a chip on their shoulder. They had a lot of chances to win that game. Obviously, that 2-point conversion come back to haunt you. Kenny Dillingham's IQ, not to say that Rich Rod's IQ isn't there, but I just think that was smart play calling by Kenny Dillingham in the first part of that game to win that game. So I don't know, they had a chance to win that one, but that being said, I just think the West Virginians just played a lot of really good football in the latter part of this season. So I don't know if West Virginia's going to have enough to win this ball game, but I do think that they are going to keep it close. I think that it's
Oh, I
going to
love
be
it.
well. I think that it does two things. I think it builds morale for us going into the off season, like we talked earlier. I think that our atmosphere is going to be a lot of what keeps us in it, but I think the most part of what keeps us in it is the fight, the determination. I think that a
The
lot of
hard
the
edge.
players on this team hard edge. I just think that pretty much everybody on this team has shown that fight in this latter part of the season. I love what I've seen out of Fred Perry. He's been compared to Carl Joseph a few times, and rightfully so. I loved what I've seen out of Scotty Fox, obviously. Um, that kid really, I mean, for a freshman, shows the ultimate determination and grit that you want to see out of a football player. And I can't say enough about him. I think Curtis Jones, obviously having to move from the defensive side of the ball and playing edge rusher position of all things, and then moving into the role of running back, um, is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to really even compare that to in recent memory in the college game. Um, can't say enough about that. There's just so many things about this team that, besides the win loss column, if you're a fan, man, you're just so proud of them, and um, I do think that they're going to make this a lot closer of a football game than what many people think it'll be. Um, so final score prediction, we'll say Texas Tech 31, West Virginia. We'll go 24. I wanted to give it a
Wow.
3-point game,
Let's go.
but we'll make it a touchdown.
Hey, you got me hyped for that one because that means that's going to be a hell of an atmosphere if that thing comes down to the wire like that against this
I
Texas
do
Tech
think
team.
so, man. I do think so. I think this atmosphere, because thinking about it, man, like this team, like I just said, the win loss record is what it is. We're not playing for bowl contention. I mean, any other time in my lifetime, especially West Virginia fans would be like, it's going to be cold. Why even bother? What's the point? And right now, we're talking about like we're still going to have an atmosphere. We've had an atmosphere at every single home game this year because people believe. I mean, there's been
Yeah,
negatives to look at for some of the games, sure. There's been poor performances, sure, but one thing that you haven't seen out of this team is them giving up. It's not ever been a thing about them giving up, and I think that's really what makes all of the fans bought in, is that they can tell, like, man, we might not be winning these games, but we're on an upward trajectory, and
absolutely.
people are here for it. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting for sure. And have a good performance in this game, and that excitement's only going to build all throughout the offseason. So let's hope that it happens. As far as my prediction, I think with Steven's prediction, it kind of touches on something that I wanted to hit on here, and that is in all 10 of Texas Tech's wins, the closest anyone's came to them is 22 points. Every single one of their wins has been by 22 plus. So if West Virginia can even stay within, 22, they're doing better than anyone else has that's lost to Texas Tech. So that's something, and at least you have that going in your prediction. And I've got it going in mine too. Although not as close as you have it, I do think West Virginia shows a little fight in this game. I think Texas Tech just has a little bit too much and pulls away late. But I got 38-20. Texas Tech beating West Virginia here in the final game of 2025. I would love to be wrong and see some Mountaineer magic there at Mountaineer Field this weekend. We'll see what happens, but that's the way we see it here as far as the matchups, our keys to victory, and score prediction. Any other thoughts here on this game before we hit around the Big 12 and then wrap up this episode?
Nah, man, I think I hit on pretty much everything I needed to. Just like I said, besides the win loss record, just really proud of the guys, proud of the guys that came in for 1 year, proud of the guys hopefully going to be here going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to take a look around the Big 12 as we like to close this out with, our game picks here as we hit, Week 14 coming up in the conference. We'll make some picks for the Week 14 conference games. Not a ton of great games this week, but we'll update the standings as well and let you know where things stand as far as who may play for that conference title, which West Virginia could throw a wrench in that, playing, the top team in the conference, Texas Tech, as we talked about a little bit there. But appreciate you guys tuning in this episode thus far as we've hit basketball and football a little bit. And if you are tuned in here on the YouTube side, help us out by hitting that like button. That helps us with the YouTube algorithm. We do appreciate you tuning in on the audio side as well. You can find us on any podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it. Just search Country Roads Webcast. You can listen to us there and leave us a rating on that side of things. That helps us out. Let us know in the comments, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food, for one. And, of course, if you want to throw your prediction for the game, you can always do that as well. We appreciate those interactions here as we continue to try and build the CRW community throughout Mountaineer Nation. And shout out to our friends over at WVSN and BGS for hosting our episodes there on BlueGoldSports.com as well. So, with that being said, let's hit around the Big 12 really quick before we wrap up this episode. Just a current update on standings. Of course, Texas Tech and BYU, if they win, looks like they will play, for the conference title. Most likely, that's the most likely scenario is a Texas Tech BYU conference championship game, which is why I said, Utah's cheering for the Mountaineers in this one. Arizona State as well, still sitting there at 6-2 in conference. But as far as the top teams in the conference, that's kind of where it stands. If you want to know where the Mountaineers are, not last, baby. That's what matters.
You want to know where they're at? No, you don't.
No, you don't. Hey, we're not the bottom, not the very bottom. That's what matters. And before long, we're going to be up here at the top with some of the other teams that we see here. But just a quick update on that as we get close to that Big 12 Conference Championship game and seeing who all is going to get in the playoff and all of those good things. But let's go ahead. Let's hit some game picks here. Week 14 game picks around the Big 12. To wrap up episode 242, our Texas Tech preview and predictions edition. There's not a ton of, like I said, great games, so it was hard to pick a game of the week. I just had to pick one that involved either Texas Tech or Baylor, and obviously wasn't going to pick our game as game of the week, so the game involving BYU will be the game of the week then. So Houston and Baylor is our first one we're going to look at here, Stephen. At noon at Waco, TNT and HBO Max will be streaming this one. Cougars looking to come back and hopefully bounce back after losing to TCU this past week. Baylor looking to end their season on a high note. They have announced they're keeping Dave Aranda, so maybe they want some good vibes heading into their offseason as well. But who do you think comes away with the victory here?
I actually think that Baylor comes away with it. I think that, Baylor probably plays a little bit more juice now that they've announced Dave Aranda is staying. Some of those guys probably playing with a little bit more chip on their shoulder. Houston, more importantly, though, in this ballgame, looks like they have just fallen apart in the latter part of this season. Not the same football team that we've seen in the first part of this season for sure. So I like the Bears.
All right. I'm going to go against you on this one. I'm going to say Houston bounces back, finds a way to win on the road and end the season on a high note there for them after, like you said, a couple struggles in recent weeks. Then we got Colorado hitting the road to take on Kansas State in Manhattan, also at noon. This one will be on Fox Sports 1. Colorado looking, to hopefully get another conference win to end the season. Still sitting there with just the one as we just saw there in the standings. But Kansas State, man, I don't know what clicked on all cylinders for them last week in that game against Utah, a team that, no one's been able to run the football on, and they went crazy, to the tune of almost 500 rushing yards. So seems like they're in a really good place right now. I think they'll win this one, especially being back at home after a performance like that. I'm expecting another good performance in Kansas State to roll. What about you, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm expecting the same out of you as you, man. I think Kansas State found whatever puzzle piece it was that was missing for the entirety of this season, and I think that continues this week. Colorado, man, they don't have anything on defense. I think their offense has potential. I think obviously they're everybody talks about Julian Lewis, but their defense is just so susceptible, man, and they give up a lot in the running game, and that's just not a good matchup for Kansas State.
True. Very
Or
true.
is a good matchup for Kansas State, I guess.
Good matchup for Kansas State's sake. Yeah, for sure. So at least we agree on that one. A lot of noon games in the conference this week as we get Iowa State and Oklahoma State also at noon playing in Stillwater on ESPNU. Oklahoma State was close to getting that first conference win finally. Maybe, just maybe in Stillwater they can finally pull the upset and get it done, Steven, get a conference win here and don't win in the season without any. I mean, they're going to be the bottom team of the conference, but at least maybe they could win one. What do you think? Can they steal one from the Cyclones?
No. No, I don't think so. I don't think they can do it. I think that this team, that Oklahoma State team is historically bad. I don't know what all fell apart out there in Stillwater, but I think that if you are a Cowboy fan, you are just ready to scrap this season and move on. I think that. Didn't you tell me that they hired a coach?
Yeah, they got the North Texas coach, which is great hire.
Yeah, yeah, not a bad hire at all. I don't know, man. There's some pretty good candidates out there. If you're Oklahoma State, you might have wished for a better person, but it's not a bad hire at all. So,
no,
a lot to look forward to. I think they just want to get this thing packed up this season.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe the energy of hiring their next coach revitalizes them and they find a way to get it done. I can't pick it, though, either. I think Iowa State wins it and gets that done there. Like I said, game of the week had to be a game involving Texas Tech or BYU, so that UCF BYU is going to be our game of the week, so we'll hit it at last, which means we got to talk about Cincinnati and TCU first. At 3:30 in Fort Worth, playing on Fox. Who do you got in this one, Steven?
TCU, man. Surprisingly, really, really good this year. Maybe not to a lot of people. I think maybe you had them pegged to be pretty good in the off season this year in the preseason.
Yeah,
I didn't think they were going to be. I didn't think that they were going to be quite this good. I thought they were going to be middle of the pack. With that being said, I got the Bearcats, man. I think the Bearcats still playing for plenty of potential going into the bowl season. I think at certain times they've fallen this year and they've looked a little bit worse than what they really are. But they've got potential, man. So I like the Bearcats.
Yeah, Cincinnati's been good. Arguably the surprise team in the conference this year. But that being said, give me the home team. Give me TCU. Kind of a late season surge coming on for them. I think they carry it on here, especially playing at home. Give me the Horned Frogs to get it done in that one. Which brings us to our game of the week to wrap up our Around the Big 12 segment here in Week 14. UCF at BYU, Stephen, in Provo. 1 o'clock kick on ESPN2. Hey, we've been pro BYU for 2-3 years now. And looks like, last year they were close. The Cougars were close to getting it done. And I hope I'm not jinxing them, but it looks like this year they're going to get it done and be in that Big 12 Conference Championship game if they can win this one. I'm picking them. Got a good feeling you are as well. Is that correct?
That's very correct. I don't think there's any reason to believe that they're not going to win this game. I think even the time that I did pick against them this year, they proved me wrong. And they came out and they won that game. So, BYU came into this conference on a not a great note a few years ago, but ever since that season, they have been undoubtedly one of the top teams in this conference. So
yeah,
can't say nothing but good things about them.
Very true, man. Very true. And I got to agree with you on that one. And I'm glad to hopefully, fingers crossed, see them in that Big 12 championship game this year. And could be BYU and Texas Tech, unless the Mountaineers throw a wrench into that, which we're hoping for a great performance in the final game there. A shout out to the seniors, as we mentioned a couple of times through here, and of course continue to follow along WVU basketball as we will here on the CRW as they play this Sunday and get back in action after a week off there, and hope to get back on the winning side of things there with Ross Hodge's debut season, which we'll continue to cover on the Country Roads Webcast as well. Just because football's wrapping up doesn't mean the coverage stops. It actually heats up with signing day coming along, transfer portal, basketball season still ongoing. A lot of fun things that we'll still continue to talk about with you guys here. That being said, Stephen, any final thoughts before we put a bow on episode 242 and get ready to go eat some turkey on Thursday and then cheer on the Mountaineers on Saturday?
Nah, brother. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We got a lot of basketball season left, and we got baseball season to look forward to. Like I said, football season not as successful as we wanted on paper this year, but plenty to look forward to, man.
plenty to look forward to. At least seems to be, ending in a good spot with, surging at the right time, despite everything you've had to deal with injury-wise. I think we can say, we're in a good place, and if you can come out and perform in this game, we're going to feel like you're in a really good place heading into the offseason with the red-hot recruiting action you've got going on right now as well, building for that future in the Rich Rod 2.0 era. I think things are looking up.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. As always, let's go Mountaineers.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those